I was at least 1 hour early from my meeting. I had a meeting with a European client, Eastern European to be precise. This client has never visited us before in New York. I chose the best restaurant, and in unorthodox fashion, our meeting was in the evening. This client has invested a great deal in our company in terms of revenue generated by his purchases of our products. So we seemed it a great honor to finally have his presence. My colleagues could not make it for this meeting, but I volunteered to meet our client alone. When I arrived at Tchaikovsky's, one of the finest restaurants in New York, I was offered a table in the corner, not near a window. I felt it was not quite befitting the level of my meeting, but as they were full and I was very lucky to get a table with only 1 day's notice, I took it and sat. Luckily, I had my laptop as I perused the web, researching more about our client. It was odd that there was not only little information about our client's organization on the web, there was no information. However, his wire transfers came through in the millions each month, so for that, it's all we needed. I asked the waiter to watch the table. As I walked to the washroom to make sure that my tie was straight and my hair was perfect. First impressions and all of that. After nearly an hour, and with precise punctuality, my client arrived. As I looked over and saw a man in a dark coat and hat, being escorted by the maitre d' in bow tie and black suit, raising his arm and gesturing to me and our table. I stood up knowing that this was my client, finally. I noticed he was very tall. He was wearing sunglasses, slightly pale. As he walked towards me, I smiled. He did not offer a smile back, and that was fine. He's a very valuable client. And as he sat at the table, I took my seat as well. I welcomed him, and I told him that we are so grateful for his generous support as a top client. And as we spoke, through his Eastern European accent, he explained that he would be increasing his orders beginning next month, which made me delighted as I could see commission dollar signs in my eyes. And amidst our conversation, we were interrupted by our waiter, who asked if we would like something to drink. I asked for a glass of red wine. I asked for a Cabernet Sauvignon, something fairly heavy and oaky. The gentleman asked for nothing but a glass of water. I had assumed that the gentleman was jet-lagged, and perhaps his stomach was not quite right. And we were brought our drinks, and after having looked at the menu during our conversation, I had ordered the steak, medium rare, as he ordered his, blue. And I thought to myself, I know that blue is a temperature for a steak, but I've never really seen anyone order one. Which was perhaps one of the least odd things about this gentleman. Perhaps the most was that he left his sunglasses on during the entire meeting, as well as his hat, a felt fedora. Very old-fashioned, but deep inside I commended his courage to dress in an old-fashioned way, and I appreciated the style. After our order, and after the waiter sauntered away, he finally took his coat off, revealing a black turtleneck, which, again, I felt a very odd fashion statement, but to each their own. I had assumed that perhaps he was jet-lagged once again, so his eyes may be tired-looking, and would prefer to leave his sunglasses on. We talked and talked and talked. I felt his accent and the way he spoke, his timbre and tone, very alluring, in a way that I appreciated, and that I felt if I were to have a European accent, that would be the one. And as we finished our steaks, I noticed that he took some bread to soak up the rest of the blood from his plate, and he finished it. I appreciated that, a man that doesn't waste. And as the meal concluded, and as the discussions ran their course, we decided that maybe we would have a nightcap at the nearby cocktail bar, where we would sign an MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding that would later lead to a contract for increased orders of our products to be sent to Romania. He slipped on his coat, and I put back on my suit jacket, fixed my tie, we stood up, paid our bill, my treat, of course, which I would expense at the company. We walked out the door. It was slightly chilly, on our way to the cocktail bar for one last drink, where we would sign the MOU, shake hands, perhaps have a cigar in celebration, and end the night. And as we passed a dark alley, I told him that I heard something. He did not speak. As I took a step into the alleyway, he followed me, perhaps curious. At that moment, I threw him against the wall and drained him of his blood.